The day's headlines. 505. South Korea sees the biggest one-day jump in the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases, reaching over 1,700. 13 people have died. We have a full rundown. At an important crossroads, the World Health Organization says the COVID-19 outbreak has reached a decisive point and has pandemic potential, but is still wary of calling it a full-blown pandemic. Plus, in a bid to contain the COVID-19 outbreak in South Korea, President Moon Jae-in and the leaders of the country's four main political parties will sit down soon for their first ever talks at the National Assembly. So, South Korea has reported its largest daily jump in new COVID-19 cases. It has also reported another fatality. Choi Jong-yoon is standing by on the line with the latest. Jong-yoon, are you there? I think we're going to try and reconnect with Jong-yoon, but hundreds more infections were confirmed yesterday. 505 more coronavirus cases on Thursday alone. And as I reported, that's the highest number. We'll endeavour to get Jong-yoon back on the phone there. No one likes to be hung up on, but perhaps there were some technical issues there, but we'll get back to that shortly. Now, China reported 327 new confirmed cases of coronavirus on Thursday. This bringing the total so far, at least what China is saying, to 78,824, according to China's National Health Commission on Friday. The death toll reached 2,788, that's up by 44 from the previous day. Italy announced the deaths of 5 more coronavirus patients on Thursday, bringing the death toll to 17. The number of confirmed cases in Italy rose to 650, up 194 from the previous day, and that's the highest number of infections in Europe thus far. Other countries in Europe as well, including Greece, Denmark and Spain, have reported infections linked to Italy, and with 38 confirmed cases and 2 deaths, France's president says the country is facing a crisis. The World Health Organization is continuing to insist it's too early to call the worldwide COVID-19 outbreak a pandemic, but it is stressing that countries should be in a phase of preparedness for what might be around the corner. Lee Seung-jae with the details.
Despite the World Health Organization refraining from using the word pandemic to describe the situation, the UN Health Agency's chief says the COVID-19 outbreak is at a decisive point.
We're at a decisive point. For the past 2 days, the number of new cases reported in the rest of the world has exceeded the number of new cases reported from China. Our message continues to be that this virus has pandemic potential, and WHO is providing the tools to help every country to prepare accordingly.
The term pandemic is used when an infectious disease spreads easily from person to person in many parts of the world. The COVID-19 outbreak has so far infected people in 50 countries and territories, and more than 4,000 cases have been confirmed outside of mainland China. However, the WHO continues to reiterate that it's too early to call the outbreak a pandemic, but rather called on countries to be in a phase of preparedness. Despite the rising number of cases in South Korea, Italy, and Iran, the WHO chief remains optimistic the virus can be contained.
The epidemics in the Islamic Republic of Iran, Italy, and the Republic of Korea demonstrate what this virus is capable of. But this virus is not influenza. With the right measures, it can be contained.
The Director General added that it's not time to be scared, but time to take action to prevent infections and save lives. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now, I did think we'd be having our Che Jong-yoon come back on the line, but there appears to be some technical difficulties. So I'll just give you a rundown of the latest here in South Korea, because I know a lot of you out there are watching for the latest numbers. So 505 more coronavirus cases were confirmed as of yesterday. We are expected to see an updated tally sometime within the next hour or so. The total number of coronavirus cases right now stands at 1,766. We should point out as well, though, that that number includes the number of people who have made a recovery, because people out there, especially if they're young and relatively healthy, generally go on to make a recovery. Unfortunately, though, a 13th death has been reported of COVID-19 here in South Korea. That was a 74-year-old man from Daegu. He had connections to that religious group that has really played a big part in spreading the virus here in South Korea. But as soon as we get any updates on the situation here in South Korea, we will let you know. It seems as though we will have another uptick in cases today, considering how quickly it's been growing over the past week or so. But we'll bring that to you. If we get the numbers during this newscast, we'll bring it to you then. If not, we'll bring it to you during our next newscast at noon Korea time. Okay, now you're up to date on the numbers there then. South Korea's presidential office says a full entry ban on Chinese nationals is not necessary to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Expressing regret over rising accusations that the Moon administration is more interested in pleasing China than taking care of the South Korean people, the top office's spokesperson said on Thursday that special immigration procedures on Chinese nationals are being implemented effectively.
The South Korean government has considered the effectiveness of quarantine measures and the interests of the people in a cool-headed manner.
The spokesperson added Chinese visitors are being managed carefully, and only 11 Chinese people in South Korea have been confirmed to have COVID-19. That's out of the total of more than 1,700 cases in the country. The official added that South Korea's measures are in line with the World Health Organization's guidelines. As the number of coronavirus cases continues to surge here in South Korea, more countries are controlling the entry of South Koreans. According to the Foreign Ministry here in Seoul, 25 countries are banning entry, and another 25 countries have strengthened screening methods. Despite more countries imposing an entry ban and these stricter measures, South Korea's Foreign Minister Kang Kyung-hwa said on Thursday that diplomatic efforts are underway to tackle such issues.
We have strongly protested to some governments that took such measures without prior notice. Our diplomatic missions are actively negotiating with other countries, so we don't see any more situations that may baffle our nationals.
However, she added that even as confirmed COVID-19 cases are on the rise, the assessment by the international community and the WHO is that they trust South Korea's capacity to deal with the outbreak. The US State Department has taken the big step of hiking its travel advisory for South Korea to level 3, and that is the highest possible level due to the COVID-19 outbreak here. The decision came just a matter of hours after US President Donald Trump held a press conference at the White House on his administration's response to the outbreak. Kim Do-yeon reports.
The U.S. Department of State now wants U.S. travelers to reconsider traveling to South Korea due to the ongoing COVID-19 outbreak. It raised its travel advisory for South Korea from level 2 to level 3 on Wednesday on its 4-tier travel alert system, which means to avoid non-essential travel as there is widespread community transmission. Other countries affected by the virus also received new levels. The epicenter of the outbreak, China, is at level 4, which is a do not travel warning from the U.S. government to its citizens, while Mongolia is at 3 on the same level as South Korea, while Italy and Japan are at 2, where travelers are advised to exercise increased caution. Just hours earlier, at a coronavirus news conference in the White House, U.S. President Donald Trump was asked whether he would restrict travelers from South Korea and Italy entering the country. President Trump said, although he may consider doing so, this just isn't the right time. He stressed that his administration is doing well in dealing with the coronavirus, as they have tightened screening and quarantine measures.
But we're very, very ready for this, for anything, whether it's going to be a breakout of larger proportions or whether or not we're at that very low level, and we want to keep it that way. So
The U.S. president said America is rapidly developing vaccines and is working with other countries to contain the virus. Mr. Trump charged Vice President Mike Pence with leading the U.S. coronavirus response and said his administration is working with Congress for financial support to battle the coronavirus. The amount of money is expected to be at least $2.5 billion and as much as $8 billion. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Now, another day to forget for traders in the United States. Stocks on Wall Street tumbled sharply again on Thursday amid fears the coronavirus might be spreading in the United States. All 3 major indices closed near their daily lows and finished the session more than 10% down from their recent highs, otherwise defined as entering correction territory. The Dow Jones, that plummeted nearly 1,200 points or 4.4%, logging its worst day since February of 2018. The S&P 500 and the Nasdaq both posted their biggest one-day losses since August 2011 to finish at 2,978 and 8,566 respectively. Oil prices also lost ground, with Brent crude shedding 2% to just over $52 a barrel. WTI fell over 3% to about $47 a barrel. President Moon Jae-in will meet the leaders of South Korea's 4 main political parties in the coming hours to discuss the COVID-19 outbreak that is so severely affecting the entire country. They're expected to share the latest developments and measures to curb the spread. They'll also discuss ways to minimize the economic fallout, which is a huge issue as well, including the drawing up of a supplementary budget, which could run into the billions of dollars. Now, today's meeting will be the first such gathering to take place at the National Assembly since President Moon took office, a move aimed at showing his determination to seek bipartisan support, everyone coming together to tackle the outbreak. Now, the South Korean government had vowed to provide local pharmacies and public retailers with 3.5 million protective face masks in light of the outbreak, but that didn't happen as planned on Thursday, and store shelves remained relatively empty, unfortunately. South Korea's finance chief apologized on Thursday and promised at least 1.2 million masks will be available nationwide from today. Kim Jae-hee reports.
Faced with a shortage of protective face masks, the South Korean government had previously said on Wednesday it will ensure that there is a daily supply of masks to state-run or public retailers, starting as early as Thursday afternoon. But on Thursday evening, pharmacies were saying the situation had not improved. This pharmacy took down its sold-out sign after the government's announcement, but it still hasn't received any masks yet.
We were relieved at the news, but when we called the distributor, they said it's likely the supply of masks won't happen until next week. We're in desperate need of masks here. There are not enough masks even for us to wear.
I went to a drugstore near my house and they've said they have no masks. So I went to another one across the street and still no masks. I went all the way to Konkuk University where there are lots of drugstores, but none of them had any.
With concerns rising, the finance minister gave an official apology on Thursday afternoon and said that 1.2 million masks will be sold at pharmacies nationwide starting Friday.
Despite various measures being taken, I'm sorry to say that we're seeing a disruption in mask supplies. We believe it may take a day or two more to supply public retailers. A total of 2.4 million masks will be supplied to pharmacies nationwide, an average of 100 masks each to around 24,000 pharmacies.
He added that 230,000 masks will be sent to the city of Daegu in Gyeongsang-buk-do province. According to Statistics Korea on Thursday, online mask prices were cheaper than in stores before the coronavirus outbreak, but now they are much more expensive. And with the outbreak expected to last for a while, the demand for masks is likely to remain high for the time being. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.
Now, there are understandable concerns over the possible spread of infection at medical centres here in South Korea. To reduce such risks, the country has come up with a so-called COVID-19 drive-through testing facility, like something you might see at a fast food restaurant, to put people's minds at ease. Kim Dami reports.
It usually takes almost an hour to get tested for the coronavirus at local medical centers. On top of the time-consuming process, there are concerns over the spread of the virus among possible patients gathering at the centers. The so-called drive-through coronavirus testing facility gives people that peace of mind and much-needed efficiency. Without having to leave their car, people can get their body temperature and respiratory symptoms checked in their seat. If there are no significant symptoms, they can simply exit the facility. For people with virus symptoms, it takes less than 10 minutes to take a clinical sample.
I came here after waiting for about an hour at a health center. It's much faster and more convenient.
People should remain in self-quarantine for the 2 days it takes to get their test results. Goyang City also offers a facility for people to stay if they request it.
We can prevent the spread of the virus from patients with possible infections. Plus, this measure is very effective as it protects medical staff.
Currently running the drive-through service from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, Goyang City is considering expanding the center's opening times as well as the number of drive-through testing centers across the city. Kim Dami, Arirang News.
In the first half of this year, property owners in South Korea who voluntarily collect less rent from their small business tenants will be able to receive a tax deduction of 50% of the discount given regardless of the landlord's total income or size of the discount. This, of course, in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. However, the nation's finance chief asked for help from the National Assembly on Thursday because the law would have to be changed to make it a reality. At certain markets, if at least 20% discounts are given to vendors, then the government will fix outdated electrical systems and install new sprinklers. The COVID-19 outbreak is affecting couples in South Korea who planned long and hard to tie the knot in the coming weeks and months. Many people who were set to get married in spring have been forced to call off what should have been their happy day. As if the disappointment isn't bad enough, some could even be hit with hefty cancellation fees as well. Lee Young-eun reports.
Our wedding was initially scheduled in April because it was a special date for us. But due to the COVID-19 outbreak, the wedding has been cancelled, and we now have to pick among the dates that are left.
This couple from the city of Cheongju had to call off their wedding planned for April 18th. Wedding invitations will be discarded, the rings will be kept in their box, and all the other preparations are on hold. They made the decision last week when hundreds of cases of coronavirus and multiple deaths were reported, which they say left them with no other choice.
All my husband's relatives are in Daegu, where the majority of cases have occurred, and hundreds of guests will be coming from all over the country, which should be avoided at this time.
And this couple is not alone. A wedding organizer says most of the ceremonies that were planned for the next 3 weeks have been postponed, especially those involving international couples. And according to a Daegu-based wedding company, the situation in that city is just as bad, if not worse.
95% of weddings until early April have been canceled, COVID-19 being the reason for all of them. In my 7-year career, I've never seen this happening, not even during the 2015 MERS outbreak.
And these couples are faced with another problem, the cancellation fee. According to consumer law, couples can only get a refund if their cancellation is due to a natural disaster. For so-called social disasters like fires or car accidents, they still have to pay a cancellation fee. And COVID-19 falls into that category.
COVID-19 is classified as a social disaster under the disaster safety law, so the penalty exemption does not apply to cancellations caused by the outbreak.
With no place to ask for help, couples have started a petition calling for the government to come up with a penalty waiver policy. 이경은, Arirang News.
A British court has ruled that an expansion at Europe's busiest airport is unlawful because it fails to meet commitments to tackle the climate crisis. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Yoon Jung-min. Jung-min, tell us more.
Sure, Mark. London's Court of Appeal has ruled the Heathrow Airport expansion illegal on environmental grounds. The court said the plans for a third runway had not taken account of the government's commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement. The UK government has set a target of net zero emissions by 2050. Following Thursday's ruling, Prime Minister Boris Johnson could abandon the project, or the government could draw up a new policy to approve the plan. The government does not plan to appeal, saying the expansion project must meet strict criteria on air quality, noise, climate change, and more. The court's ruling is the first major ruling in the world to show the Paris Agreement has a binding effect. Greenpeace and other climate activists hailed the ruling, while the British Chambers of Commerce said business communities across the UK will be disappointed. Heathrow is one of the busiest airports in the world, catering to some 80 million passengers a year. A 111-year-old man in the UK is said to be confirmed as the world's oldest living man. Bob Waiton was born in 1908 and is expected to be named as the new record holder following the death of 112-year-old Chitasu Watanabe in Japan last Sunday. While he is the oldest man in the world, there are about 50 women who are older than Mr. Waiton. The world's oldest living person is 117-year-old Kanei Tanaka in Japan. Pop star Taylor Swift literally became the man for her new music video, The Man, to show how differently the world views men and women. In her self-directed music video released on Thursday, she imagines what her life and career would be like if she were a wealthy white man instead of a wealthy white woman. She plays the man who manspreads, parties on yachts, and marries a much younger woman. At the end, she digs into the treatment of women in the society, creatively taking on what feminists described as patriarchy.
Taylor, right here, please.
Good morning. Don't forget to take an umbrella with you on your way out. Rain that started in Jeollado provinces is now spreading across the rest of the country. In western regions, we'll see 5 to 10 millimeters of rain into late tonight. Meanwhile, it's still a winter wonderland in mountainous regions in Gangwon-do province with up to 7 more centimeters of snowfall expected throughout the day today. And due to the rain, temperatures will not rise that much. Highs in Seoul will be nearly 7 degrees lower than yesterday, but readings will jump to the mild side just in time for the weekend. Western regions will have dustier air in the morning, but it should be washed away with that rain. And daily highs will be 5 to 6 degrees lower than Thursday, only getting up to single digits for most parts of the country. Looking ahead, first week of March is looking to be a tad cooler than what we had this week. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all the news and weather we have for now on this Friday morning here in Seoul, South Korea. Stay tuned to Arirang TV. We have our next newscast coming up at noon Korea time. If you're watching us in South Korea or any other country affected by COVID-19, we hope you have a healthy weekend and a stress-free one at that. Until next time, goodbye.